We hold thoughts about ourselves that are not true. Our brains are meaning-making machines. So when you have thoughts about yourself, like, I'm never going to figure this out, is that true? Well, it feels like it's true because I haven't been able to yet and I keep failing. Can you absolutely know that it's true that you never figure things out? And that's where your brain starts being like, well, I can't know that it's true because I did figure out that one thing. We're destabilizing what felt so initially like, no, this is true. This is who I am. Like, this negative, yucky thing that I feel about myself feels like the truth, but it's not the truth. It's not factual. It is just a thought. And beyond that, it's a thought that hurts. Because how do you feel when you think the thought, I'm never going to figure it out? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today.
Welcome to episode 8.
Oh my gosh. Blowing me away every week, blowing me away.
I feel like you do that pretty often, that little deep exhale.
Yeah. You know, my friend Terry pointed that out because Terry is my friend that I met at the Dr. Joe retreat. I love her. And she noticed, because we talk on Marco Polo, she's like, you're really good at taking deep breaths. And I'm like, I do it without thinking about it now because I realized I wasn't breathing ever. I was never taking deep breaths. In fact, our whole relationship, just to kind of give you guys the state of my nervous system, anytime Ryan took a deep breath, I'd be like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Because I would interpret his sigh as frustration. Isn't that crazy? It just tells you how like hyper attuned our systems can get. And in fact, I did it in front of my dad, except for like I did a sigh. I was like, my kids were fighting. And I was like, ah. And he's like, what was that? I was like, just a release of energy.
Yeah.
And we don't realize most of us aren't taking deep breaths, and we should be taking deep breaths more. And what I think is the coolest is that my body does it automatically. Like, I'm just trying to, like, it's time to record a podcast. I'm trying to just ground into the moment.
Got it. So it's not like a stress thing.
No, it's not a stress thing at all, actually. And I'm just like, shout out to my body for being like, hey, you need some extra oxygen right now. And I'm like, and it's taking that for me. Because we have so many automatic functions of our body. I'm like, how about we do some automatic ones that are like really good for me? So before we get into this episode, I want to remind everybody that my coaching program is open for business. It's always been open, but I'm finally accepting new clients again after a 5-week close. Both of the new courses that I created during that close are available to my clients, and I'm getting really good feedback about them, which is super fun and exciting. So I wanted to read a little bit of that here, and then we'll get right into the episode where we teach you 4 ways to challenge that negative voice in your head that's always being super mean to you. Okay. So the first one was from a client saying, the new lessons and course material is amazing. I am blown away. I seriously love it. I feel like everyone else in Vibe Club will too. Your hard work is so incredible and the new content feels priceless. Someone else said, I'm loving the new update and started doing the new material from the beginning. It's exciting and exactly where I'm at now in life. What I've wanted to do was figure out the root cause of things. If weight loss was one of the side effects, then yay. If peace at what life throws at me is also a side effect, then also yay. I'm ready to tackle the root cause. Someone said, the new course is so good and I really feel like it's filling in the gaps I had that I didn't know were there. It's also pulling back the curtain for me on why the last year was not nearly as successful as I had thought. I was using some tools while also completely dysregulated and thus telling myself a story that wasn't true to try and calm my nervous system down. This is good stuff. And then the last one, hi Maggie, I'm 3 lessons into the overeating solution, which was the second course that I released. And I love it so much. The clear, simple, to the point direction you give is spot on and so real. It makes it darn near impossible to not understand the solution to overeating. It's been so hard to not rush through it and just keep listening because it's so good. I love the side notes as you're talking, so we know your talking points and the notes provided below the video as a reference to what the video is about. Just wow. Can't wait to get through it all and apply what I'm relearning. On my way to listen to the 3 lessons again before moving on to the 4th. Thank you and Ryan for your hard work and effort. It truly shows. So I wanted to just share those on the podcast so that you guys can see, you know, my goal with the new content, because, you know, it's a coaching membership. I want to coach you guys. I want to teach you how to coach yourself. That's really important. But I wanted that core content so that the second you get into Vibe Club, you can start listening and learning. And I want it to be crystal clear. I want you to know exactly what you need to do, exactly what the problem has been, and exactly what the solution is. That is what I kept in mind. That was my intention as I recreated these things. Get rid of any fluff, get rid of anything that is wasting anyone's time, and let's get them to what they want, which is that peace, which is that self-trust, which is freedom from their coping mechanism. So I invite you to join. If you resonate with what you hear on this podcast or the content that we put out, you can go to vibewithmaggie.com to join the membership.
Cool.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Negative self-talk.
Negative self-talk.
What is negative self-talk?
It's kind of like we all have this voice in our head that says stuff to us that we would never say to ourselves. And it's hard. It's challenging. I've become really aware of my own, especially over the last 6 months. When I went to that meditation retreat, that was when I nothing like some silence to really allow you to hear what's there. Another good way to know about your self-talk is like when you drop something or you make a mistake, what do you say to yourself? In your mind or out loud? Like I'll do something and I'll be like, come on, Maggie. And I'm like, oh, that was a little judgy. Like, come on, what? People make mistakes. People drop things. People, forget to hear the timer on their sourdough bread. They do stuff like that.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you think this kind of stems from like being young and like adults talking to us that way?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah, I don't think our self-talk, it's someone else's voice. The question is who, and the other question is who cares? Like, a lot of us, it's going to be a parent. It's going to be the way that we were talked to. And that's what they say, they're like, the way you talk to your children becomes their inner voice later on.
Yeah.
That's it. We have a lot of power and control as parents. And I think so much, I talk to Ryan about this all the time. I think so much about how we're all programmed. And what that means is just like, it's what we experienced. It's what we watched. It's what we saw. It's what we observed. It's what was modeled to us. And a lot of that is like really shitty programming. And I'm like, we have these kids and you can program kids. And that sounds bad, but I'm like, this was not my experience, but there are some kids, now adults, whose parents gassed them up and were like, you are smart, you are creative, you can do anything. And they believe that. And they believe it only because they were told that. They didn't have someone, like I have memories of like showing my art to someone and being told that's not what a face looks like. You can't make money. In kindergarten, they had us do like an outline of our bodies, like you laid down and then you got to decorate it with what you wanted to be when you grew up. And I think I put an artist, and some feedback I got was like, that's not a realistic aspiration. And it's crazy because those things stick with us so much more than the positive stuff. But the way you talk to your kids is so important. So I always tell them, like, you're brave, you're so smart, you're so creative, you're such a good singer, you're so what, and I don't even care. Like,
we're brainwashing.
Part of me is like, yeah, you brainwash them in a good way.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
Yeah.
Why would you not? Why would you tell a kindergartner that that's not what a face looks like? They're a kindergartner. And sometimes I think as adults, we're just trying to prep them for the real world. And it's like, well, that's what they'll be bringing to the world. Negativity and doubt, self-doubt. These, as children, we get doubt programmed into us, and we're not doing our kids any favors. I'd rather brainwash my kids into them being, I don't know, my mom thought I was awesome. She thought I could do anything. She celebrated everything I did. And like, that's what they'll remember. They will remember how you made them feel. And the voice you use with them becomes the voice they have. The patience you have with them becomes the patience they have with themselves.
Yeah.
The love you have for them becomes the love they have with themselves. So what I like to say about my coaching, because I'm not a therapist, right? What I like to say about my coaching is that, like, you may have a need to go and talk to somebody about the things you've been through, your trauma, all that kind of stuff, and really unpack it and do that work. I think everyone should. And we'll do a podcast about this on a deeper level at some point. But the work that I like to do is working with where we're at. So whatever made you that way, you may want to dig into that. You may want to do some type of therapy around that. I like to just be like, here's the state that we're at. Here's my nervous system state. Here's my self-talk state. Here's the state that I operate from right now. How do we change that state? How do we change the conversation? How do we change the reactions and all of that? So that's what we're going to talk about. But I love that you asked that question of like, oh, where does it come from? It doesn't come from nowhere.
Yeah.
We are not born doubting ourselves.
Yeah.
It makes me sad because you just think about the stuff that hasn't yet been programmed into your kids, especially like we're adults, we're cleaning up whatever messes there are, but it's just sad to think that at some point our son will get the cultural programming for men and our daughter will get the cultural programming for women, and both of those suck. And you have to be like working 4 times as hard from the other end of raising these kids so that they don't fall into the beliefs that this is how this works and this is how that works. So we have this judgmental voice in our head, this voice that when we make mistakes or we don't measure up or, whatever the expectations are, we have negative self-talk. I think negative self-talk is very normal. It's very normalized. It's even like joked about, but it's not harmless. It's like it does have a cost for it. And the biggest reason it matters, any type of thinking, but especially the negative thinking, is that it determines how we feel and therefore how we act in our life. A lot of the negative self-talk that we have is just a combination of thoughts and then beliefs, which a belief I would just say just has deeper roots. It's just like, no, this is something I really believe about myself. It's just something you've told yourself so long. Like, I'm an airhead, I'm lazy, I'm, what are the thoughts I have about myself? I frequently do things that, probably could be classified as ADHD, maybe. I don't really see it that way anymore, even though that's one of the many diagnoses that I've received. But there's like this feeling that I'm, what's the word? I'm sure you could tell me what the word is. Maybe careless or like a ding dong. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like I'm often hopping out of my chair because I forgot that I was boiling that, or I very forgetful, kind of like, where is my brain? Like, come on, Maggie, like get, that kind of stuff that I've tried to really notice and be compassionate about, because once a decision like that is made or a situation like that happens, there's nothing you can really do about it. So to beat yourself up about it for forgetting something, it's just my brain, it's just the way my brain is wired. But the self-talk and the beliefs that we have about it are optional. We get to choose what those are. So today we're going to talk about 4 ways that you can practice like combating the negative self-talk, because you have to think you are with you all the time. That voice, whatever it's saying, whatever it believes, whatever it tells you, that's you. In you, living in yourself. And so what I'm trying to say is that if you can reduce the negative self-talk, your body and your mind are going to be more pleasant places to live. Because I don't know what it is about feeling like we need to motivate ourselves by being mean to ourselves and being cruel and kicking ourselves in the ass and like enough is enough, grow up, get it together, figure it out. And I have seen that pattern play over and over and over and over again with clients and with myself, where it's like, you need to just get to a point where you're fed up enough to be like, that's enough, get it together. Like, and we've all tried to do it from that place. And that works for a very little amount of time because it's lacking compassion and it's mostly fueled by judgment and disgust and disdain and disappointment for yourself. So we don't want to be doing that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to catch the voice early. Because most of our negative self-talk is something that's running on autopilot. It's happening very quickly. We don't realize what's happening because if you think about it, it's the voice in your head. You're like, it's your roommate. In fact, I've been reading The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's a really great book. And I think that's what he refers to it as. It's like this roommate that you live with. Yes. I was just reading this at the beach, and he was talking about like how much you would hate living physically with a roommate that said the same things that you say to yourself. Yeah. You would be like, this person is awful. I got to get out of here. And yet we have that voice that has a resident in our brain. So a good way to notice if you're at the beginning stages of this and you're like, I feel crappy all the time. I don't have high thoughts about myself. I know there's an issue. Maybe I'm not completely aware of what it is yet. And you're in that awareness phase. A good place to start is realizing whenever you hear any thought that sounds like, I can't, I always, I never, they're normally like extreme statements and they're very sweeping. Like, I never get it right. I always fail at everything I try. Or maybe something that's not quite as dramatic, but it's definitive. It will use words like always and never and can't. That's a good way to just kind of catch it and be like, okay. Because as soon as you label it and you hear it and you're like, oh, there's that thought again. I'm always telling myself that I never get it right and I always mess it up. That's exactly the negative self-talk that I want to start becoming aware of. And I'm going to teach you a way to kind of dig deeper into it. I began my self-help journey long, long ago, okay, in a therapist's office when I was 15. And I'll never forget the first self-help book that I was ever given. I don't know if he gave it to me or if he told me to buy it. Who cares? He said Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. Okay. And she teaches a really, really cool process that I'm going to walk you through really, really quickly and easily, because once you get it, you can run through your mind really fast. But the important thing to remember is when you hear those thoughts, I always this, I always that, I never this, I can't that. When you're in that awareness phase, it's very important to ask yourself, is this a thought or is it a fact? Is this something that's true? Or is it a thought? You want to start separating the facts from the drama. The drama is the story. The facts are the truth. The thoughts that we're having in our mind are 99% of the time, maybe 99.9, a story.
I think that's easier said than done, though.
Of course it is.
Because thoughts, we have feelings attached to them, which make it feel very true.
Yes. Well, let me walk you through this process, and you can give me a sample one. And we can work through it, because this was a really good way to destabilize the thoughts that I thought were facts. Like the things that you'll tell me, you'll be like, listen, my brother said this thing and this is what it means. And he's a dick and he's always, ragging on me and he never thinks that I'm doing anything right. He's always criticizing me every time. Yeah. You notice how that was just naturally coming out. He's always telling me that I'm not doing enough, and he's always in competition with me, and he doesn't think that I'm smart. Everything I just told you was a thought. None of those things were factual, no matter how hard you want to prove to me that they are. But the problem with our thoughts and our beliefs is that they feel so true. But we know that they're not, because someone else could hear the same thing and be like, it doesn't hit me the same way. So we know that it's not across the board. So start getting used to figuring out, is this true? Okay, so that's what I'm going to take you through, because most negative self-talk is an opinion. It's not the truth. And if you live it like it's the truth, it's hurting you. To hold on to those stories and to hold on to that hatred and to hold on to that resentment is hurting you. It is not hurting the other person. They are not feeling the effect of your thoughts. So whatever you think you're doing to try to stick it to them, by you torturing yourself with your story, it only hurts you. And that's why I think it's a benefit to really work this process, okay? So what Byron Katie does is she has you walk through 4 questions, okay? I love them. This is from the book Loving What Is. So tell me something, come up with a good example of something where you would make a statement of something that would feel true. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a real situation. I'm
gonna have a hard time
I know.
coming up with something on the spot.
Okay, so if someone canceled on you, you had an arrangement to get together with a friend.
Yeah.
And this friend is really flaky all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they canceled last minute. You were getting ready in your car. And let's say you don't have your higher mind here and you go right into judging that person.
Yeah.
What would you make what would you make it mean? About you?
They don't, about me?
Yeah, I think you were going to start. Just finish it, what you're going to say.
I mean, they don't care. They're always flaky. I expected this.
Yeah. And okay. What would you make it mean about you if we pushed it a little further?
They don't care about our friendship.
Yeah, they don't. We can go with that. It could sound like they don't respect me. They don't care about my time. You said they don't care about our friendship, right? So these are the questions she has you walk through. The first one is it true that they don't care about your friendship?
It feels true.
Is it true?
They're taking actions that make me think it's true.
Okay. So I love where you went with that, because that's where people will keep trying to convince you.
Yeah.
Well, sure looks like it to me. I wouldn't do that, blah, 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 right? So guess what her second question is? Can you absolutely know that it's true? No, you can't. So destabilized immediately. So it's like the first question is like, yes, it feels true. They always do this. If they did care about our friendship, they would have shown up a lot. The question is it true? Yes, it feels true. Can you absolutely, without a doubt, know that it is true? Well, no, I can't possibly know that them doing this means that they don't care about our friendship. Okay, then the third question is, how do you feel when you think the thought, they don't care about this friendship? Emotion.
Sad?
Sad. Yeah, sad, disappointed, let down, whatever. So that's how you feel when you're thinking this thought. Then the fourth question is, who would you be without that thought?
Who would I be without that thought?
So you're not allowed to think, he didn't show up, he canceled on you. You're not allowed to think it means that he doesn't care about your friendship. Who would you be that thought didn't exist?
I mean, probably a better friend to them.
Yeah. That's so funny because her fifth bonus question, which I didn't even write down, is turn it around. Like, if I didn't have that thought, like I'm not being a super good friend because I'm judging them. So I just love it because I feel like all these questions just allow you to get in there. And you and I were talking about this the other day because I teach something similar that works on the thoughts and the feelings and the behaviors that people are taking. And there are so many different ways to use those three things, to see things clearly, to see things differently. And I just love this because it's like we hold thoughts about ourselves. Let's take it back to the thoughts that we have this negative self-talk. We hold thoughts about ourselves that are not true. They are, our brains are meaning-making machines. And the same way your brain would be like, he doesn't care about me. That's not a true thing. So when you have thoughts about yourself, like, I'm never going to figure this out, is that true? Well, it feels like it's true because I haven't been able to yet. And I keep feeling, well, can you absolutely know that it's true that you never figure things out? And that's where your brain starts being like, well, I mean, I can't know that it's true because I did figure out that one thing.
Yeah.
So then we're destabilizing what felt so initially like, no, this is true. This is who I am. Like, this negative, yucky thing that I feel about myself feels like the truth, but it's not the truth. It's not factual. It is just a thought. And beyond that, it's a thought that hurts. Because how do you feel when you think the thought, I'm never going to figure it out?
Yeah. Hopeless.
You feel hopeless. And then what do you do when you feel hopeless? Nothing.
Yeah.
Or destructive things. So we realize that we have these thoughts, we have this conversation, we have this talk with ourselves that's not factual. It's just an opinion that we have of ourselves. It's just based on whatever evidence that we feel like we've created, but it's not true. We can't absolutely know that it's true. And when we go even further, we realize I feel so shitty when I think that way. And then we give ourselves the opportunity to consider, if I wasn't allowed to think this, like if it wasn't an option, you know how I'm always saying you have so many options of what to think. If this wasn't one of them and you couldn't make it mean that, and that thought is gone, it's like instantly the feeling is gone too, because the feeling was connected to the thought. And when you're not able to think that thought, the feeling goes away too. And you have this inner moment of peace and you're like, I don't know, I would just feel fine. I would feel curious. I would just feel whatever. It doesn't even matter because I don't think it even shifts you to a really good feeling thought. It just removes the yucky feeling and gives you that space. And you get to consider, who would I be if I stopped thinking this way? Who would I be if I stopped talking to myself this way? Who would we be if we stopped torturing ourselves with judgment and negativity of everything that's wrong with us? We would have such a better life. We would like existing in our mind. Our mind wouldn't feel like a battleground, which so many of us feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first thing. And I highly recommend that book. It was the first one I read. I read it when I was super young. It made really good sense to my young brain without that prefrontal cortex being fully developed. I learned very early on the power, and this is what I try to teach my clients and will be really pushing hard, especially from here on out. I realized at a very young age that my perception shaped my experience. And that's a really good lesson to learn young. And the second best time to learn it is whatever age you are now.
Yeah.
You are shaping your experience because we experience life in our body. We experience life through our emotional state. And that is driven by our mind and the things that we think and the things that we believe and the things that we tell ourselves. You must take accountability for the experience you're creating by knowing the things that you're creating are making you experience your life a certain way. It's so important. It gives you all that accountability back, but it also gives you the power to change it. So forever we'll be shouting that from the rooftops. The second thing that you can do, or the third thing that you can do, is bringing things back into your body. Because when your self-talk is really spiraling, your body will normally like hop into the party and you'll start to have like your physiology changes.
I hate that.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't that so crazy? Like, we really do create a body experience through thought alone. Nothing is happening. Because if you think with self-talk, that's normally you and you being wherever you are. So you could be working out. You have that negative self-talk. You could be driving a car. Negative self-talk. You could be taking a shower. Negative self-talk. It's just you and your thoughts. We've all experienced being pissed at a coworker, getting that email that we need to respond to. And so we're just over here driving our car and writing that email in our head. And we are feeling as if we are face to face with this situation. And we are not. Our body has now joined in with the overthinking. The heart rate spikes and the breathing shallows and the jaw clenches and the pupils dilate, and the body is now along for the ride. So that's when you can bring in some really light, gentle somatic things. Somatic just means of the body. Breathing a little bit deeper, smiling, laughing. I know that's hard, but when you're smiling, your brain doesn't know whether it's fake or not. There are just things you can do in your body that signal to your brain you're in a safe state so that your body can kind of calm down. Because when we really start working ourselves up about something about ourselves and talking really shitty to ourselves, our body can kind of, then we've got our nervous system involved, and then that's driving our thoughts, and our thoughts are driving our nervous system, and it's looping. I know you like to work out when you feel like you're like, whatever has happened in your mind has gotten your body too activated. That's a way that you like to move that energy, right?
Yeah, it doesn't always work though. It's hard. It's when my body joins the negative party, it's really hard to focus on my thinking. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to like force it to stop.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Like I do go work out sometimes to help it move through.
Yes. But
it doesn't always work. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it works more than other times, depending on the situation. But yeah, for me, I hate when that happens.
Well, and that's where I want to invite again with the use of tools. I'm going to say this 10,000 times, so get used to this, is the way that you use them. I love that you used the phrase like doesn't always work. And that's because a lot of the time when we're doing stuff, we're doing it to make something go away.
Yeah.
And so I like what you said, that it's like, I do it to help it move through. And that is a completely different perspective than most people use any tools, even tools like going on a walk. I'm going on a walk so I can calm down. No, I'm going on a walk so that I can help my body move this energy through me.
Yeah.
And if that happens by the middle of the walk, that's cool. If it happens by the end of the walk, cool. If it doesn't happen at all, cool.
Yeah.
That was something that I could do. And I know I'm being helpful to my body because I know that what I'm feeling in my body is literally just a cocktail of chemicals that was just manufactured from my brain. It just decided to release a bunch of stress chemicals into my body. Stress chemicals do not have a lifelong lifetime. They are meant to be released so that your body can do what it needs to do, and then they cycle out. So if you try to use different tools to like make yourself calm down, you even use the word force yourself to calm down, it's never going to work. It's like you're swimming upstream, pushing uphill. You're going against, you need to work with your body. And it's like, oh, I feel a lot of activation in my body. And that's when you're in fight or flight. That's when we want to kind of like get some of this energy out. And it can be very helpful to just kind of be like, oh, ooh, there's a lot of extra vibration in my body right now. And I'm going to help to move that through. So when you calm your body, it's easier for you to believe the kinder thoughts. When you're dysregulated, that will fuel a lot more negative self-talk because you're just, like you said, we're not wired for positivity in those moments. When we are dysregulated, we are wired for survival. And survival often comes from running from something, fighting that thing. Like we're not in this like, oh, what do I want for my higher self? It's like, so it can be a problem. So any ways that you can, and I like to keep this really simple, any ways that you can just invite some safety into your body, do the things that physiologically signal to your brain that you're safe. Things like deep breathing from your belly, maybe some bilateral stimulation in your ears or on your legs. There are just simple things that you can do. Simply drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw intentionally, put your hands on your jaw, let it soften, let it open. Take one really slow, deep breath, exhale, double as long as you inhaled. These are very simple things that just show your brain. If she was in big trouble, she wouldn't be breathing like this. She wouldn't be smiling like this. She wouldn't be moving like this. Slow things down. And then the fourth recommendation is to borrow a kinder voice for the interim. This is something that comes up a lot in my coaching. And I want to preface it by saying, please don't use this perspective to judge yourself more. That's what I'm literally trying to help you move away from that. Most of us are aware that we would never talk to a child, a best friend, a sister, a brother, the way that we talk to ourselves. So it can be a very helpful exercise to ask yourself, if my brother, sister, friend, daughter was going through this exact same thing, what guidance would I offer to them? What comfort would I offer to them? What would I tell them about it? I deserve, and then knowing or working toward believing that I deserve that same type of care and compassion as well. And could I practice that kind of voice with myself? And this doesn't, I know some of you, even you possibly could feel like, well, I don't want to be like coddly with myself. Like, you're a straight shooter. You shoot straight your friends, your brothers, you are a straight shooter. And I believe you would be that way with yourself, but you would do it from a place of love. So I don't want people to be like, oh, I'm tapping out, because it's like, I'm not just going to baby myself and be like, I love you so much and you're worthy of, but also the truth is you wouldn't speak to someone else in that way.
Yeah.
So you can apply that to yourself and be like, hey man, this is part of it. I can just imagine your voice, like, because I've seen you work through so many things. That doesn't mean you never get frustrated. You most certainly do. But if you were talking to someone who is trying to grow a business or grow, following on something or whatever, and they're really getting down, because they don't get down on the business, they don't get down on the platform, they get down on themselves, and they think they're a loser and they're never going to figure it out, and their business is failing or their content isn't performing. You would be like, dude, this is part of it.
Yeah.
Like, you got to keep showing up, keep throwing it at the wall, keep talking about what you want to talk about. You would give them advice that would sound different than you give yourself when you are hitting a roadblock and can't figure something out. Because that's what they'd be facing, is I can't figure this out. So we turn that back on ourselves. And I like to do the same thing when it comes to friends. I'm a straight shooter too, though. I've definitely become softer over the last couple years, because I do feel like my childhood experience was not met with much softness at all. So I feel more comfortable playing that role for myself now as like a reparenting type of experience. But consider that. What would you say to a friend or someone that you deeply, deeply love and care about who was going through the exact same situation that you're judging yourself and talking really shittily to yourself about right now? Or you can borrow the voice of your future self. That's something that I talk about a bit in the New Rooted course within Vibe Club, is you can borrow advice from your future self. There is a future version of you who is already successful. She is already in a loving relationship. She is already the patient mom that you want to be. She is all those things. She's figured them out, right? And you can always check in with her and ask her, or think in terms of her, how would she handle this? Because one thing we know is if she's a lot different than you, she lives in a different mental state. She has different feelings that are driving the way she shows up. And you can't really wait to be her or wait to be him. You kind of have to start showing up as them now, which means that when you want to, lash out in anger, you need to remember there's a future version of you that's patient. And they go, this stuff doesn't matter. Or when you want to, quit, you need to remember there's a future version of you that was like, no, I refuse to quit on myself. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to figure this out. And then you become the person who figures it out in this moment. I think it's very wise to borrow that wisdom. I also want to give the caveat that future self-work was very unapproachable for me for a long period of time because of how dysregulated I was. So please keep that in mind. A lot of the cognitive, mental reframing stuff we talk about is much more challenging when you're super dysregulated, which is why in Vibe Club, we cover that foundation first. But I just think that's an easy place to start. It's like, okay, I'm beating the shit out of myself. What would I say to my sister? I would tell her, this is not that big of a deal. You're going to figure it out. You always do. I know it feels really shitty, but this feeling's not going to last forever. Of course, you're going to figure it out. Now turn that voice to yourself. I know this feels shitty, but you're going to figure it out. Life has shitty moments. You've gotten through 100% of every other shitty moment you've ever been through. Let's go out to lunch. You know what I mean?
It's crazy how supportive we can be to people we love, but not ourselves.
Yeah. And that's why we have to become someone that we love and care about and truly start believing, because most of us don't, that we deserve that. You deserve that. And that was something I was thinking about while I was outlining this podcast. Is a big part of this is you have to really decide that you want a good relationship with yourself. You have to really be clear that the way of motivating yourself and talking to yourself never got you an outcome that you wanted, at least not for the long term, maybe temporarily, but not for the long term. So you have to be really aware that what you've been doing hasn't worked at all. And you really have to question, why would I be less lovable than the people that I love in my life? Why would I not be worthy of the same type of care and concern and compassion and consideration that I give to everyone else? And that is such a beautiful rebuilding of a relationship. I think that's the most beautiful relationship that we can rebuild, the one that we have with ourselves, the one that says, I'm never going to talk to you like that ever again. I remember a good example to me for that. Brooke Castillo, who, started the life coach school, which was where I was initially certified. When it came to her body, she had a lot of, lots of body shaming, lots of picking her body apart. She taught a lot about weight loss and all that stuff. And one thing she said was that there was one day where she literally made a decision. And this showed me the power of decision. She decided, I am never going to say an unkind word about my body ever again. Ever again. I will not tolerate it. Like the same way I wouldn't tolerate it if my spouse said something negative about me. Like, I'm not going to do that to me ever again. And I don't know if she was successful at never having a negative thought about her body again, but I feel like it's so powerful to just be like, I'm not going to entertain that kind of thing. I'm not going to allow myself to speak badly to myself. I'm not going to allow myself. I'm going to notice it the second it happens, and I'm going to reframe it and be like, nope, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's again showing everybody like it's a choice. The way you talk to yourself is a choice. Reducing negative self-talk does not happen overnight because you've been talking to yourself like this for a long time. And then, yes, like Ryan brought up at the beginning, possibly, most likely being talked to that way as a child. And we have to create that patience for ourselves, even if our parents didn't have it in them. We have to create that love for ourselves, even if our parents didn't show it in a way where it was received. We have to reparent ourselves so that we have the conversation that I would hope you're having with your children. It's really, really important. You do not have to believe every single thing you think. And I encourage you to stop letting this shit just fly right by. And when you do, when you have a sticky thought, and by sticky, I mean one that you're like, no, I think everybody on the earth would agree with me that he doesn't give a fuck about me. I think, when you're so convinced, run yourself through these questions. I'll go through them again. Is it true? You can answer whatever you want. Second question, can you absolutely, without a doubt, 100% know that it's true? Third question, how do you feel when you think that thought? How do you feel when you believe that? And the fourth question, who would you be without that thought? And by that, truly what she means is, how would you feel? How would you feel different? It's just such an easy 4 questions to really dismantle something that's very, very feels fucking true. It feels 100% true. And I think that I could convince you if you give me enough time. You're hurting you. This negative self-talk that you have, the judgment that you have, the way you tear yourself down, the way you say these nasty things to yourself is hurting you. And it's only hurting you. And you could live a much better life very, very quickly if you can learn to notice these thoughts, take away their legs and their power and their sense of being factual, being this thing that's just true. And you start giving yourself some wiggle room to be like, how is this possibly not true? And that is how you can begin to rewire. A lot of people want to know, like, how do I rewire my thinking? How do I think new thoughts? You become aware that the current thoughts aren't helping anything but for you to feel shitty all the time. And that you're going to be able to create the life that you want as we unlearn that way of talking to ourselves and relearn a kinder, more compassionate voice.
It doesn't happen overnight, and it also doesn't go from one extreme to another too.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to that's the thing. When people literally are going from a place of, I hate myself. You're not going to jump to, I love myself.
Right.
You're going to hate yourself a little bit less. You're going to see that there are some parts of you that could be lovable. You're going to find parts about yourself that you really like. You're going to see parts of you reflected back from other people where you're like, oh, I actually like, and you're going to learn loving yourself is something we have to learn. Because our brain is just going to offer us all the reasons why we aren't lovable and aren't worthy and are just going to be losers forever.
Yeah.
And the first step to that is the awareness. Okay.
All right.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.